Yes, good morning and welcome back to the program. Now, this is going out on the satellite broadcast waves of Salam Media as well as online on our website, salammedia.com. You can also find it on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Salam Media, and our YouTube channel. And not forgetting also broadcast on the FM frequencies of Al Ansar in Durban and Pietermaritzburg. I'm joined now online by Michael Beaumont. He is the former chief of staff of the former mayor of the city of Johannesburg, Mr. Herman Mashaba, who resigned from his position both in the Democratic Alliance and the mayorship. And he's written a book, The Accidental Mayor, Herman Mashaba and the Battle for the Democratic Alliance. What was the actual reasons for Mr. Mashaba's departure from the party? Good morning and welcome to the program, Michael.
Good morning, and thank you very much for having me on your show.
All right, so very interestingly, you've penned a piece detailing some of the, or rather a synopsis of the book that you've written. What would you say were the main reasons for Herman Mashaba's departure from the Democratic Alliance?
Sure, it's a very complicated question to answer, but I'll do what I can. I think the difficult thing about our political system is that politicians depend on a mandate from their political parties. We have an electoral system where political parties receive votes and they determine who the candidates are, which is something that's actually a big problem in our country. But essentially, what we had was a shift in the Democratic Alliance. I was in the DA for a very long time beforehand, and a shift away from these governing coalitions that they had agreed to enter in 2016. There was also a kind of shift in the DA itself in terms of where it stood on various key matters of great importance to a pro-poor agenda in the city of Johannesburg. And, over time, the situation became untenable, where the service delivery program of Mayor Mashaba was constantly under siege by his own political party. And in the book, I described the DA as the most difficult coalition partner, which is a bizarre phenomenon when you're running a 7-way minority coalition government. You at least expect your own party to have your back, so to speak.
Now, the DA has, in recent months or perhaps a year or two, been coming across more strongly as a white party. There's been a number of resignations that have happened. Musi Maimane, the leader, has left, and it almost seems as if it is regressing and going back to what it may believe is a core constituency in the white community. Is this true, or is it still a representative party for all South Africans?
Yeah, I mean, I think, I too have resigned from the organization at the end of last year. And, my view very clearly is that the DA is regressing from a couple of different standpoints. The one is the DA had always been committed to a program of redressing the legacies of our unjust past. It committed itself to a program of race-based redress for those who still feel the pain of our apartheid and colonial history. And that definitely appears to have shifted in the last few years towards a position which is fundamentally different. I think most disappointingly from our standpoint, and what the book deals with a lot, is the kind of betrayal of the residents of Johannesburg, because when the DA decided to go into these coalition governments, what you had was an enormous opportunity for a political party who, let's say, has a major trust deficit with the majority of South Africans. And when you have a trust deficit, you're not going to speak your way out of that situation. But what you do have is an opportunity to deliver services to people who've never had services before. And you build trust with those people in such a way where you can grow the organization. I mean, just to give you an example, the book talks about, the electrification of Kliptown, which is the home of the Freedom Charter. Now, can you imagine a minority coalition government 25 years after democracy, and we were the ones who had to electrify Kliptown as the home of the Freedom Charter? These are the opportunities that I believe have gone wasted, because when you're in government, and this is certainly why I joined politics when I was young, I didn't join it to be an opposition, and I didn't join it to be a small suburban political party. I joined it because I wanted to be involved in making a difference. The only way you can do that is by winning elections, governing effectively, and improving the lives of people.
Mhm. Now, you also speak about the role of Helen Zille quite extensively. I've seen in the pages that have been presented to me. What was her role in, pushing Herman Mashaba out, if it was to be described as that? Was there an antagonistic relationship there? And her coming back into the party, has it been now positive going forward, or do you feel that it has just further allowed the party to degenerate?
I think the key thing from our perspective is that I think a lot has been made of Helen Zille as an individual in this whole story. And I think to suggest that Helen Zille as an individual has caused all of this would be mistaken. I think Helen Zille, the book, certainly speaks in detail to the fact that there's a grouping of people involving Helen Zille and the party who are shifting the organization in a direction which is fundamentally different from what it has always been, and who were fundamentally opposed to these coalition governments and had been from day one. Now, when we first took office in 2016, that grouping was not, a force to be reckoned with. But by the time we got to 2019, that grouping of people had actually managed to successfully out the leader of the party, Mmusi Maimane, and had successfully started to shift the party in a direction which made governing very difficult. And that kind of factionalism that existed in the DA didn't just take place at the national level. What we had is even within our own caucus of DA councillors in Johannesburg was a group of people who were fundamentally against the work we were doing in government, were challenging it on a constant basis, were far more interested in what services we could deliver to suburban areas rather than prosecuting a pro-poor agenda in areas where people need services very badly. And that is what made the situation untenable. And, a lot of people challenge this information, and I want to offer them the following. When Herman Mashaba left the city of Johannesburg, a mayoral election took place where the DA's Funzi Ngobeni stood against the ANC's Jeff Makubo. Anywhere between 3 and 8 DA councillors used the secret ballot to vote in the ANC mayor that we have here today. That is a sign of a political party that doesn't want to be in government anymore.
Where to now in terms of the Democratic Alliance? Are they still positioned to be the forerunner in next year's local government elections? Will they be the official opposition? Do you think they are going to lose more ground as we've already seen in the recent elections nationally? Do you think that they are slipping?
Yeah. Look, I'm not going to speak too much about the DA because I've walked away from the DA, and there's a great deal of sadness in my heart after all those years that I dedicated to the DA. What I can say is this. I think the DA's regression is far from over. I think when you tell the people of the country that you don't want to be in coalition government at a local government level, and the future of local government is exactly these kind of coalitions. Because, what we have is an ANC that's been dominant for many years that is slipping, and you've got no party strong enough to obtain a majority. So if you're telling people now that you don't want to be in coalition governments, that's a very poisonous message to share a year away from a local government election where those coalitions are going to be a certainty. I think from my side, though, is we are far more involved in building an alternative right now, because I think when we left the city, Herman felt an incredible sense of regret because there is work to be done in this country. And the fact that the DA is proving not to be the right vehicle for that work doesn't alleviate us of our responsibility to build a vehicle that is going to deliver that change.
So Michael, finally, with your privilege of insider politics within the Democratic Alliance, the various coalitions and politicking that takes place behind the scenes, where to for South African politics? What is the future if it's not possibly with the DA?
Yeah. Look, I'm not sure I'd call it a privilege. I think the book details it was a bit of a horror, to be honest with you. But I think the future lies in, the people of South Africa coming together to build an alternative. I think the ruling of the ConCourt a little bit more than 10 days ago was key in that regard, because we need to move away from the party politics that we have grown accustomed to. In South Africa, we have a situation where in 2019, 18.5 million people of voting age did not vote. 17.5 million people did. Now, in a country where you've got 40% unemployment, that's not apathy. That is people saying, I have no confidence in the political parties on offer, and I do not believe my vote will matter. What we need to do now is build a political system where people don't feel that way. And that's exactly the work that Herman Mashaba is busy with now in establishing this new political party. And we really are going to great lengths to make sure that what we are building is different from the typical politics that has failed this country so fundamentally to date.
Mr. Michael Beaumont, thank you so much for joining us. Finally, the book, where is it available and how can people get their hands on it if they'd like to read it?
Sure. No, the book is available at all major bookstores. I think it's on promotion at Exclusive Books right now. It's also available online through Take-A-Lot and Amazon and all the various online platforms. And I see it's now on Uber Eats. So if you're sitting at home and you'd like to order yourself a book to read, Uber Eats apparently is delivering it now as well.
Thank you so much for your time. You go well and enjoy the rest of your day.
And to you, thank you.